So you want to do an encounter scene. Well, congratulations. Here's what you're going to be doing in order to do that successfully. First, you have to generate a scene as usual. You get your 3 scene qualities, you add your window dressing, you ask yes/no questions, all of the things we went through in past tutorials. Once you get all of that set up, then what you do is you roll 2 10-sided dice and you multiply them together. That's going to be your faux budget. Then you have to start rolling on the faux table, which is that 1d20 table under persons, usually from 81 to 100, but it's also the 1 to 20 faux table. And you subtract the point values of stuff that you roll, whether it's individual NPCs, members, multiple members of a team, multiple members of minions, and figure out or interpret what each one of those roles mean. In one setting, it might be zombies. In another, it might be robots. In another, it might just be cultists. In another, it could be something entirely different, a swarm of rats, or a swarm of some alien species. Whatever it is, you can figure out as you're rolling these numbers together what those different foes are. If you get that C/O designation, that means that that foe has a culture and occupation. You roll the d10s for that, and it will tell you, is it a person from a native culture to yours? What could mean, are they human, or are they American or European, or from some other part of the world, if that's necessary. It's mostly meant to do kind of, are they human or humanoid or non-human, or any one of these other kind of fantastic races that they have in many of our games that we like to play. Next, you roll a d10 for occupation, if they're a generalist or warrior or what have you, and that gives you an idea of what sort of ways to angle any skills they've got, or you can use that as potential window dressing. If they're a warrior, they may have one set of particular things they're good or bad at. If they're a rogue or traveler style character, they might have another set of things they're good or bad at. So as you roll those numbers, you decrease your budget until you get it to a faux result that gets you below 0. Once you're below 0, you can stop. Then you have your complete faux budget. With a big faux budget, you can have a small army, and that can be problematic for your player character. So you can switch from encounter scenes to obstacle scenes, though once you have those enemies in sight, it just means, okay, I'm no longer going to fight them. I'm instead going to use my skills to try and evade a fight with these people or somehow get around it. Even if you run an encounter scene straightforward, it's always a good idea to use those obstacle scene learnings to say, I think I know ways that I can use my skills to try and reduce the effectiveness of this enemy force, reduce their numbers, split them up, get them arguing amongst each other, anything to avoid a 4-on-1 confrontation where your guy ends up getting the beat down. Because in the end, encounter scenes are very unforgiving. So that's the basics of an encounter scene to set it up. Once you've got it set up, like I said, with skill checks like you do with an obstacle scene, you may accomplish certain things to entrench yourself and try and get an advantage, a competitive advantage against them. Another thing that you can do is that you can, when you start up, you make either an opposed notice roll, taking like any other skill check allowing for unlimited assistance. You add up the highest notice of each side and then add +1 for each additional party on each side until you get a number for the group, subtract 1 from the other, and then roll the yes/no question based on what that sum is. And you figure out, who detected the other side first. If one side's being sneaky, that is, as we talked about from the last session, the last tutorial, that's going to be an opposed notice, which fully adds up, versus the sneak of the other side, which is an interference check, meaning it uses the single lowest number. So if one side wants to ambush the other, you take and do that unlimited assistance notice versus the would-be ambusher's lowest single sneak skill, and then on the basis of that, roll to see if they are detected. Again, there's certain things that can come in as factors. If there's a rationale that that one side is, the foe group is distracted, for instance, then that could play into your favor. If they're vigilant, then that could play against you. So there you have it in terms of how to ambush. Now, in terms of ranges, you make the call as to when those detection rolls can start. There are 3 different ranges. Extreme, which is the furthest that a missile weapon in that particular setting can go, whatever your setting is. There is medium, which is kind of the standard missile range for whatever your setting is. And there is close, which is basically melee range, although not everyone's necessarily in the melee. The maneuvers that one can do in a turn are either to move, that is to close the distance from extreme to medium, from medium to close. To retreat, just the opposite, go from close to medium, medium to extreme. To attack, which, either you have a ranged weapon and you're at medium range or closer, or you have a melee weapon and you're at close range in order to attack. Or to defend, which means you're not moving, you're just actively trying to dodge or block or use your nimble score in order to evade taking damage. So there are rules about how to handle each one of those situations in the book. Go into it a little bit more in the next tutorial just to make sure that it's all here.